Knights of Sidonia Season 2. Of course, with this being a full season review, there will naturally be spoilers, but for anyone who may want to check out my review for the first episode of this season, I'll put a link in the description below to that, so obviously you should still watch the first episode before that review, but that's like my first impressions of this season and kind of where things were headed and what I thought about it. Also, I'm a bit sick, so me, like, as far as pausing a lot, that'll probably happen quite a bit just because of like my breathing and me being sick. But going into this season, I was looking forward to it. There were like two things. It was like two sides of the same coin. So going into season 2, everything I heard about the season itself was like, oh man, it drags, or it not really drags. It's just not as good. It's bad compared to the first season. There's a harem element that's just not really entertaining and stuff like that, or at least just it's not as good as the first season. The other side of that coin with the season not being as good is that the one good thing I did hear about the season really comes from the fact that they had a reference to Blame. And that's why we now have the Blame anime movie, because it was actually from the same creator, and a bunch of people like lost their minds when that first came out. So that was like really the only good thing I heard. It was like, the reason that we now have Blame, which came out this year actually, the Blame anime movie. Excuse me, the reason we have that is because they had like that one clip during a later episode in this season, and people were like, holy crap, that's Blame, which blew my mind. Excuse me. Blame is super old. I knew what Blame was because it was like the second manga I'd like ever read all the way through. So for me, it was like, oh man, that's an old thing. It actually does have an anime. It's got like a 6 or 9 episode anime because it's actually that old. So it was just weird. I was like, wow, I can't believe that many people like lost it for Blame and even knew what the heck it was. So I thought that was cool before this season even started. That was one of the elements, or before I started the season. But like I said, that's like the one good thing I heard, and that really has nothing to do with the season itself. It was just a cool reference to something that the same person who made Knights of Sidonia made Blame. It was like, oh, that's cool. So that's like the one good thing I heard, and that had really nothing to do with the actual season itself. So going into it, I was like, alright, well, I watched the first season. I'm not just going to give up on it, so I want to see what happens here. And going into it, first episode was awesome. First episode, I think was just like the first episode of the first season. You start off, not as many questions, because it's just like, the first actual episode is like, what the F is with Nagate? How can he break his fingers, hit his head like that? He's up and running and jumping through windows and crap. A million questions. Are these people really immortal? All this stuff came up. This wasn't so much like questions as to what's going on in the world. It's more like questions as to what truly happens next. Because we start off with this episode and we have Kunato, his sister slash servant, which I still think is weird. They both get, the sister actually gets killed. Like, she gets full on decapitated. Like, her fingers get sliced off and she gets like completely murdered. But then, of course, she's like resurrected. I didn't think that was going to happen, but when they showed it, it was very cool. So she gets killed off by this little thing that actually, I think, was like a small version of Tsumugi now that I think about it. But she was killed by that and possessed by this small little thing. And then Kunato, the same thing happened to him where he's possessed by this little thing crawling across the ground and he couldn't get up because it like paralyzed him, I guess. So that ends up happening. First episode's action-y. Things are crazy. People are dying off naturally. Every battle, bunch of random people we don't know about die. And then Tsumugi gets introduced. And that's where things are super crazy. That's the end of the first episode. I was like, I can't wait to see how this plays out. And for like the first maybe 3 episodes after, like in total, I'd say the first 4 episodes are really, really good as far as like, this is just like the first season. Like, you have like your down moments where Nagate's probably learning about this or that. But for the most part, here's battles, here's people dying, here's something crazy happening. And in this regard, the craziest stuff was actually outside of the battlefield, because it's like, what's going to happen with Kunato being, basically possessed and now pretty much being the spirit of this old dude who's supposed to be dead and basically the big bad villain, the scientist. He's basically in Kunato's body, and he has a servant. They take over the other scientist who was looking after the Hoshijiro clone. So it's like, what's going to happen with this? She ends up disappearing, and we find out later that basically Tsumugi, and this is super complicated. They didn't really explain it, and I kind of wish there was a bit more detail, but it was basically like Tsumugi is the child of the Hoshijiro Gauna. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, but kind of like a few more details there. How exactly does that play out? But it it just is the way it is, and that also, at least a little bit, explains why the same voice actress comes back, because it's supposed to be like Hoshijiro's child, I guess, has her voice, that weird sort of thing. But like I said, the first 4 episodes, I said, were definitely awesome. They maintain sort of that element of this is crazy, what's going to happen here, what happens next, and then it sort of just went away a little bit. Like the first 4 episodes, first 4, maybe even 5 episodes, it was like, here's what's happening, little stuff. This is just really cool behind the scenes. This new version of Kunato is working with the commander, who, this may not have even been in the first 5, but I think it was, where she kills off all the other Immortal Council members and stuff like that. Big plans. Big plans are being made. She's doing crazy stuff that no one knows about. He's possessed and he's working with her, and it's like, oh man, he did this illegal stuff, where now we have this crazy giant ship-sized Gauna, but it's a hero, so even though it's totally illegal that he did this, it's on our side. Excuse me. It's like, it's on our side, and it's helping us do extra crazy stuff. So the commander's now working with them, and then they have Izana's grandmother come in, which was just a cool little element where it's like, I can't possess her. That was like one thing that we learned about these little creatures, is that they actually lessen the capabilities of people. And it was like, I can't possess her, I need her to join our side, because I'll basically degenerate her brain. Like, as genius as she is, I need her to just say yes. I can't possess her, because it won't work. So I thought that was cool. It was like, the smallest little bit as to what these little things could do when they infect people. So they have all this stuff going on in the first like 4 or 5 episodes, and then after that, honestly, it's like 4 people are in the anime, and that is Nagate, Izana, Yuhata, and Tsumugi. Those are like the 4 characters I feel that were truly in the series after like episode 4 or 5. And then the rest of it, because I think it was 12 episodes, the rest of those episodes are just like, that's where kind of the harem stuff comes in. And I'll be honest, I still like the whole season. I still really enjoyed what we got. The main issue is that even though I liked the second half, I thought the interactions were funny and they were really good. Like the writing I still thought was good, and just Nagate not really understanding the situation that he was in, which, kind of a harem sort of style, where he just doesn't get it. And the way things sort of build up between the characters, I kind of like it. It's not too harem based, where it's like, oh, there's all these girls on this guy and stuff like that, and everyone's super obvious about it, or they have a million interactions and the character doesn't get it. It really is kind of like, he had his love interest in Hoshijiro in the first season. He was connected to the Gauna version of her, and then that version is gone, and Tsumugi comes into play. So Tsumugi comes in and he has this interesting relationship. He doesn't necessarily know about her being the Hoshijiro thing, but he has this odd relationship because he knows that there's something to that. There's some element of that there. And they have an odd relationship because of that, but it's not too much to the harem point where, like, I think I never once truly thought somehow he's going to end up with Tsumugi. I really never thought that. It was just like, she has feelings for him. But in the beginning, it wasn't really like that. It was like that kind of developed over time. But in the beginning, it was just like, hey, I'm like the kid. I'm the new kid, and I want to hang out with my 2 best friends, Izana and Nagate. And that was really it. And then, of course, Izana, eventually growing more and more attached to Nagate, actually, just subconsciously, officially becomes a woman. So there are elements like that where it's like, okay, Hoshijiro, of course, is gone. And then you have the best friend who, was kind of just there and continuously growing feelings for the main character. And then eventually it just happens officially, where she officially becomes a woman. And they kind of just constantly skirt around it back and forth. Her grandmother coming into play was actually really good. I thought she was funny. But it's like, hey, why don't you, come out, hang out with me and stuff. And they, wear like the skimpy outfits and stuff like that. And it was just funny. That's why I liked the second half, because their interactions of them kind of having feelings but never truly expressing them, I just loved. It was super freaking funny. And there were some serious moments once again thrown in there. I'm like, before a lot of the harem stuff truly picked up, we had the moment of both Tsumugi and Hoshijiro in danger, and Hoshijiro lost both her arm and her leg. And so now she has like the robot arm and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, definitely building up elements of these characters. And as things, kind of continue on, that's, going more into the harem stuff, it kind of evolves into like these set layers. Like I know where each character stood. It wasn't like a harem where it's like, oh, this character might get in with Nagate or anything like that. It was like Hoshijiro was at the top, dead, and then right under that was the best friend / new love interest, Izana. And I feel like that's where it works because a lot of people throw around the harem thing because it still is harem-esque, but it's not nearly as bad as like an actual harem. It was still like he has feelings and he only actually gets these feelings for one person. Now the other two characters, being Tsumugi and Yuhata, they still have feelings for Nagate, and they kind of throw it in there for like half a second during the scene where I don't know her name, but the woman who normally has the hair over one of her eyes when they're drinking, and she's like and I love this line. She like, suddenly I feel like photosynthesizing. I was like, that's actually a really cool line. It was just like one of those subtle little things. She just wanted to bang the dude, and then of course he passed out drunk, and I was like, missed his chance. But that was it, with that character. And she was super cool. She got like a lot more in this season as well. Like there was the part where she actually got like the blade and stuff for honor and all that stuff. And I was like, that's actually really sweet. So they kind of did a little bit more with her character. And then outside of that, like I said, it was 4 characters. So going through like the sequence where they're walking after Izana kind of gets left by her grandmother. She's in this skimpy outfit. She doesn't want anyone to see her. And of course, Nagate comes up behind her and is like, hey, what are you doing? She's freaking out and stuff. And that's when they're on the stairs. And it was such a funny sequence. And she stopped. And I can't remember why she stopped. But of course, he's still walking and he walks like straight into her butt. And they both freak out because it's like, oh crap, I'm kind of getting feelings for her. She's getting feelings for him. Or she's already had feelings for him. And it was just really funny. And her grandmother was trying to push them together because she knew how her granddaughter felt. So it was just super funny. Like that's why I like it so much, because it was still very entertaining and funny to me. But then it's like, man, when you think on it, this is super entertaining, but that other stuff was just more exciting. Like it was entertaining, and I was like so curious what comes next, because a million different things were happening. People were dying off, the immortals were killed, the whole underlying thing of Kunato not truly being Kunato, and no one knows about it yet. And then they kind of touch on that during, I would say it was in the very last episode, but like the last 3 episodes kind of jump back. Where it's like, here's all the harem stuff in the middle for a big chunk, and then like the last 3 episodes is like, let's jump back to like all that super epic stuff, because they go through all of the harem sort of elements, and then they go on this mission, like this super secret mission, because of Izana's grandmother. And of course she finds out about that, and I thought they were officially going to have that moment where they're talking. They don't truly actually reveal what's said, because the movie's like, I heard what was said, but she doesn't say anything. So still nothing truly comes of that, but they all go back and everything, and it's like, okay, well, one of the soldiers deserted, and they got arrested. So, Izana is picked up as one of the exploration people. Go to this brand new planet, and that was one of the interesting elements of this season. It's like, man, we are officially going to find a new planet, get out of here, either use it, which ultimately in the end they end up using it just for protection off the top, but the plan was to find a place that was a new habitable planet. So it's like, alright, cool element. It's officially brought back within like the last 3 episodes. Izana goes out on this mission. Everything's an absolute disaster. Everyone gets killed off except Izana and like the main captain. They go on the planet. We get introduced, or it's like this small element is explained that the reason Gauna can actually track everybody is because of like the fuel and stuff. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing to kind of show off. So they're on the planet, and it's like the commander's like, don't do a rescue and stuff initially, and then it's like, all right, we're doing a rescue. We are sending out the 2 main people. So they go out on this mission. They're taking everything down, killing Gauna, left and right. They get to the planet, and then it's like, oh crap, the Crimson Hawkmoth comes up again, which was super cool. I love that reveal. I thought it was just amazing, honestly, because I thought it was a great villain in the first season, and then to bring it back, I thought was just absolutely amazing. I was like, okay, this is super freaking sweet. Like, this just looks amazing to me. So, the Crimson Hawkmoth comes back. It looks actually like Hoshijiro a bit. It's like her actual face. It's not like the ship, and then her on the inside. It's like the whole thing looks like her. So it was super cool. And then her versus Tsumugi, which is really great. And then you have Nagate flying around. He's taking out Gauna left and right to get to Izana and the captain. And they have some really epic moments where they're all split up. So we have these 2 battles going on. And it was like, man, this is taking me back to like, the beginning of this season and a lot of the first season, where there are stakes. Like the stakes weren't super high because it was at that point it was all the main characters, but and I figured everyone would live, but it was still really cool. It's like, how is this gonna play out? And so we have them, like when they're all surrounded, and Hoshijiro, not Hoshijiro, but Nagate, he locks the ship down so that he can just shoot at all these Gauna, and he takes them all out except for 3, and then, he starts using the new blade because he gets like the new ship in the last 3 episodes. So he has like the blade inside the ship that can like cut through Gauna and stuff, and that was a cool little moment, which I kind of wish they did that more just because I love like blades and everything. But that was really sweet. I was like, this is awesome. And then you have Tsumugi versus the new Red Hawk Moth, or Crimson Hawk Moth, and it was super cool. And it's like basically 2 halves of the same creature, a little bit. And it was just super cool. And they're going through this battle, and initially, Tsumugi wins, and they go to the weird Gauna Yoshijiro thing again. And it was just crazy, because I mentioned this in the first season. I was like, okay, when it was the original Crimson Hawk Moth, her body was still in there. It's being controlled, but it was still her body. And I was like, okay, maybe they'll do something where they have this version of Hoshijiro, which is like, it's the evil baby Gauna thing. It's not really killing anybody, but it's still, it's unpredictable. And then you have the Crimson Hawk Moth, and they destroy it in some particular fashion. They save the actual Hoshijiro. That never ended up happening, and she just died. Like, her body was just gone, and the ship exploded. So when it came back, and Tsumugi defeated the Crimson Hawk Moth, and then once again, this Gauna version of Hoshijiro came out, I thought she destroyed the Crimson Hawk Moth, and this was the real Hoshijiro. Like, that was never actually her in the first season. And I thought, like, holy crap, they did what I thought they were doing in the first season. And then they didn't do that. They didn't do it again, and I kind of got tricked again thinking that was the actual version of Hoshijiro. Which probably doesn't make sense, because I'm sure they couldn't actually breathe on the planet. But when I first saw her crawl out, I was like, oh crap, like, she's been released officially from the Gauna. Because it didn't make sense to me at first why she'd be crawling out if the Crimson Hawk Moth wasn't officially killed. But it was just a genius effing tactic, because Tsumugi was distracted, like, oh, there's a body, and she like looked up at her and everything, and she looked freaked out, and that's why I thought it was like really Hoshijiro. And then of course that's when things get really bad for Tsumugi, and the Crimson Hawk Moth is like boom straight through the chest, launches her into a pillar, and things just get really bad, and it's like, oh crap, is Tsumugi actually gonna get killed off? And then that's when Nagate comes in, and he's taking on the Crimson Hawk Moth, and it was just really, really cool. Like, the last couple episodes, tons of crazy action, and just seeing them fight, it was entertaining, and I loved the last few, and it was just like, man, this is really freaking sweet. Like, it was crazy how much it really amped up because of all of, like, the harem sort of elements that played throughout most of the season. But really loved it. Get to the end, ultimately everyone's saved. They send out a big rescue squad to, because it was dumb, and they're like, let's only send the 2 main characters, and then let's send everybody else after them, because, suspense and stuff. But everyone comes in, big rescue squad, they all get saved, and that's where we get like our little hint for what may or may not come in season 3, which is Kunato being like, I've always wanted to be reborn. So they have the second Gauna version of Hoshijiro after they do a pretty epic way to kill it too. I thought it was very awesome, because it gets into the ship, the Crimson Hawk Moth gets into Nagate's ship, and then it's trying to kill him, and it's the Hoshijiro version again, and it's like sticking tentacles in his mouth and killing him, and these weird crimson flowers are like blooming and stuff. And so Izana has to get lifted up, and she like, if she chose, like, I thought about this, but like, man, if she chose to do the organic replication and stuff, they all would have died, because she had the mechanical hands, and she was able to shoot them into the little things to pop the head off, and it like separated the head from the rest of the Gauna, and that allowed for Nagate to like pierce through and kill the Gauna, like gain a little bit of control, because this Hoshijiro Gauna thing was separated from like the main core. So he kills it, and then she's just still there, and she's moving, and I was like, crap, they're doing it again. And then, once again, she's kind of taken off like the first version was, and I assume that she was also impregnated, and that's where we have this second giant crazy Gauna that Kunato was looking at, where he's like, I've always wanted to be reborn, that sort of thing. So I assume that's what happened with her. Because the first version completely disappeared, I assume we won't see the second Gauna Hoshijiro at all either. I could be wrong, because maybe he already had that giant Gauna there already and that had nothing to do with her, but they mentioned, like, what happened to her. I was like, well, we took her for this or that, and I was like, okay, the Gauna thing showed up again. It's like the same with Samuki. It's like they use that body up and then make a new giant Gauna, and now this one, he'll completely take over. So, excited for season 3. I still really enjoyed it. Like I said, I know that a lot of people were upset by it, and I totally understand why, because it did, especially with the first couple episodes being just as intense as, honestly, the first season was. I was like, man, the harem stuff must, really upset people. Maybe it was just done really badly. But it's not that it was done badly, it was just that it was done a lot. Like, it was a huge chunk of this season was them getting, the new house and basically hanging out and figuring out who they were going to be in relation to each other. And that was, like I said, it was definitely entertaining. It was still good writing, and it was funny. Like, some of the funniest stuff was, like, the scene when they're in the bath. Like, that's just one of my favorite sequences. And then, it's like, oh crap, he could hear us when we were in the bath talking the whole time. All of that stuff is great. Like, there are great moments. But it's like, as great as this is great. But that was great, and I wanted more. Like, and that's just the main thing. It's like, I was still interested, but I wasn't just like, ooh, what's going to happen next? Like I was in the first, 4 or 5 episodes. So, I definitely see why people didn't like it, but they totally picked it up in the last 3, as far as just going into, it was totally just all action. There was like no real story. It was just like cool action sequences, but I was like, at least there's some cool action. So I'm still looking forward to season 3, but I understand why people definitely didn't like this one nearly as much as the first season. It's hard for me, because it's like, I really enjoyed the first season, but I did like getting to see more downtime that was actually entertaining. Especially because it focused only on a couple characters. It's just sort of a character development thing. That's probably why I liked it so much, because it was like, it wasn't just a bunch of downtime with 8 dozen characters. It was like downtime with 4 people. So everyone got, it's mostly 3. Like, Yuhata was kind of in there, but still barely. So there's like a lot of actual development that I really loved, because I was like, okay, if it's going to only do this and no battles, at least it only does it with 3 people, and you get that true focus when it does that. So a part of me is still like, it was definitely well done, but, excuse me, but I totally get it. But like I said, I still enjoyed it. Of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about season 2, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know what you guys are looking forward to. If you're looking forward to season 3, I want to, excuse me, I want to know what you guys are looking forward to. What you would have changed about this season for sure. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.